Well, just your point about you were talking to the previous caller about the not being able to produce a Pizza Express receipt from 10 years ago and remember where you were.
Hey, unless he used a voucher.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's true for you and I.
Yes.
That's true for you and I. But Prince Andrew is one of the principal members of the royal family, so he's got close protection records which go back. The security records for the royal family are precise down to which building they're in.
You know this because of, just general knowledge, or you've worked in a similar field? What's your...
Worked in a similar field.
Okay, carry on then.
And it goes back, it was some time ago now, but the records would certainly identify the buildings that they were in, because he'll have 24-hour protection, and people will be aware of where he is at all times. So
can you shrug it off?
Well, it's just if he wanted to be able to demonstrate where he was that night,
then he would be able to. And if he'd shrugged off his close protection that night, then questions get louder and more clamorous, not quieter, and answered, don't they? And also,
it could be.
There was a story again this weekend about Boris Johnson sort of dispensing with his minders and his close protection officers to attend a meeting with representatives of the Russian government 2 days after NATO had a meeting about sanctions on Russia. I just mentioned that because I'll forget later, but it just demonstrates that if you want to get rid of your protection, you can, but it generally would leave more questions than it would answer.
It does. It invites a number of questions, but also it prevents you from being able to use the kind of fit and proper, all above board excuse where you've clearly gone down a road where you don't want to be.
So how would we go about, theoretically, finding out whether or not, because it's a very specific date, that's the whole point, isn't it? How would we go about finding out whether or not there was any record of where he was that night?
Well, at some point this week, after this kind of furore, you'd have thought that Prince Andrew would want to come forward and say, look, it's no problem. I can back up my story. It was a car crash for an interview.
Yes.
I didn't get my Lady Di moment. It didn't go the way I wanted it. I wanted it to be so much better. But here's some evidence to say that it was just my performance that let me down. It wasn't the facts. And you could follow up with some kind of release that said, and here's the detail that you're questioning me on.
And what you do now, of course, whether intentionally or unintentionally, is that you pose the question of, if he doesn't do that, why doesn't he do that?
Exactly.
If anyone can track their movements and account for their movements with great levels of detail, it would surely be someone who was under 24-hour police protection.
You'd think.
You would? Think. Crikey, how's it taken us an hour and 42 minutes to get to the jackpot? He could have had it on him. He could have had it on him. He didn't know what questions were coming. He could have pulled it out of his pocket and gone, oh, by the way, here's the police log of that night. You see here, I had a sloppy Giuseppe and some dough balls.
Exactly. Exactly the point. And
I don't think dough balls were on the menu in that year, Tom. You walked into that one, didn't you?
Well, okay.
No, so
I'm down on my Pizza Express menu options from 5 years ago.
Yeah, but that would be so easy to prove. And although it's only one of 3 accusations/allegations, he'd have to prove he was there all night, wouldn't he? Because Tramp, to the best of my memory, Tom, Tramp's open until 5 o'clock in the morning, usually.
Well, I'll take your counsel on that, but at least in terms of times and place,
yes,
he should know where he should be able to demonstrate where he was in time and place.
Well.